My name is Marquis Harper. From East Providence, Rhode Island. Former Division I football player. Always got to put that out there because I like to still think I'm an athlete, but I got to really get back in shape. But I'm just, I guess you would call me a content creator. That's what I do for Under Armour. But I guess creator is a good way to put it, just because, I like to think of myself as like someone who, when it comes to content, not just shooting and taking photos, but really honing in on like conceptualizing shoots and ideas and things like that. So like, I feel like creator kind of sums that up, just because I'm like a really creative person. But yeah, I mean, that's me.
So let's take me back to like the very, very beginning. When you were born, were you born in Rhode Island?
I was born in Boston, I guess.
Okay. So the early life was in Rhode Island though?
Yeah, I lived in Rhode Island pretty much my whole life. Lived in Massachusetts for a little bit, but Rhode Island is where I consider home.
Okay.
So no, you didn't pick up any accent, is what you're saying.
Thank you. No accent.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you happy about that, or would you prefer to be a true Boston?
So
I don't even know what to call it.
Yeah, I wouldn't really even consider myself like a Boston person, because I grew up in like closer to Providence. So, but there's like an East Providence accent that like people have that are from there, and like you can definitely, like, if I heard it, like I'd be like, oh, that person's got to be from. Same with Boston, but it's more like distinct. It's kind of funny, like people up there with their different accents. But yeah, no, I didn't. I never got one, thankfully.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So take me through the early years then. Like, what were your parents athletic? How did you get into football?
My dad played football in college. He played at Northeastern University, who I actually has a football team. I probably would have went there if they still had a team, but I actually was at their last game. They played at URI, and it was their last football game ever. I was there. I think we might still have the ticket. It might be worth some money, but so both my parents went to Northeastern. My mom is originally from Rhode Island. My dad is from this area, Maryland. He grew up in like the Upper Marlboro area.
Right.
But lived in Rhode Island. My dad was a coach. He coached. He actually still coaches. He's the athletic director now at my high school that I went to. But he's always been around football, around different sports. So growing up, it was kind of like a given that I was, gonna play sports, specifically football. And I loved it. I played football, basketball, baseball. I ran track for a brief period of time. So like I was definitely an athlete, growing up. But then when I got to, kind of the Pop Warner level is when I really started to be like, all right, I could do football for sure. So I kind of really focused on football up until high school. And then was fortunate enough to be able to play at the Division I level.
What were your high school stats like? Because I'm just curious. Actually, let's back up even further. Did you play football like from that Pop Warner age on, or were you like playing all sorts of sports up until your senior year, or was it mainly focused on football?
So, I mean, I played all different sports all the way through high school. Like I played football, basketball, and baseball in high school. But football was like my main sport and my favorite sport. I probably, looking back on it, I think I could have played college baseball. I just like wasn't that, I wasn't really trying to play it like that. If I really pushed it, I probably could have. But football was my main thing. And I mean, you got to take the stats with a grain of salt, because it's not like it is here. Like you don't have, good counsel where you got 5 guys going to, Ohio State, Michigan. It's not like, it wasn't like that. I played in the worst division in the state, be a small state. So it was like the competition level wasn't the great. So but at the same time, like, I think if you're a good player, it doesn't necessarily matter where you're playing at, because your talent is going to shine through. So, I put up some pretty good numbers. I don't know, Mac, if you saw my IG story like from like a couple weeks back, but I put up just a clip of me like running around in that game. I had like 200 some. I played quarterback, so I had like 200 something passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 260 rushing, 4 touchdowns, and we still lost the game. That just shows you the type I was on. But I mean, it was fun, man. It was a lot of fun, high scoring. No defense was being played in any of the years that I. We always had like a good offense, but we could never stop any. I mean, it definitely was kind of rough. I didn't have a winning season until I got to college, actually. In my freshman year, we won the conference championship, so that was crazy. Played with some pretty talented guys. A couple of guys I played with had, league shots, so it was cool seeing, scouts come to the practice and things like that. But high school it was definitely fun, exciting.
What advice would you give to kids, like, for example, if they are on a losing team, but still wanted to play in college? Like, how was the recruiting process for you? Did you have to actively get your name out there, or were people coming to watch you because of the numbers you were putting up?
I think it's definitely, there was definitely people that were coming to watch me, but it wasn't anything like as far as like big time schools. Like, I wasn't getting recruited by anyone that was, major. I had URI really wanted me to come play, but I really didn't want to go to URI because I wanted to get out of Rhode Island and see something else. But it was kind of hard to get recruited, especially because, like I said, I was playing in the lowest division, probably the lowest level of competition in the state. It's already a small state, so people aren't really coming to Rhode Island to look for athletes. So, I mean, I would say now is a little bit different than when I was playing, obviously, because you have social media. So you can really, like, you don't necessarily need people to come to watch you. You can get your stuff out there. If you're doing well, you post a clip on TikTok of you juking somebody and it gets 1 million views, a coach might see that and then, reach out to you that way. So I guess, if I was going to give advice to somebody now, I would say, just try to put yourself out there as much as you can. If you feel like you're not getting recruited, definitely, you can take matters in your own hands, reach out to coaches. But if you're producing on the field and you have the highlights to go with it, you can definitely probably warrant some attraction from coaches and schools and things like that. So just keep putting it out there.
How long? Well, Brandon, do you have anything else college related?
No, when it comes to college, I was just curious, like, did the content creation start there, or was it something that happened after?
That's pretty well. And let me frame that even a step further. So at some point, I'm sure we were going to talk about you working for the Patriots, and that seemed, how many years out of college did you get that job?
So I actually I started working for the Patriots before I graduated grad school. So,
Okay, so let's frame it into that. Like, at what point during your football career did the camera work come in, and then how quickly were you able to transition to you playing football to, oh, hey, I'm shooting pictures on the sideline at New England Patriot games? Like, that seems like a super quick jump.
It really was. I mean, I had always been kind of interested in it. I went to school. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. So I was in like communications classes and doing the whole like sit down interview. Like, I had in high school, I had a connection with Michael Smith. I don't know if you guys remember Michael Smith, but he used to be an anchor at ESPN. Was good friends with my parents, so I was able to shadow him and kind of see what it was like at ESPN, and it was dope. And I was like, dang, this is really what I want to do. So I was pursuing that, the on-camera stuff, the stand-up interview, things like that. But I always kind of liked shooting. I didn't really do anything until probably my senior year of college is when I really started to like pick up a camera. But the reason I picked up a camera was because I ended up breaking my leg in my 5th year, like going into my 5th year, my graduate year. It was a summer workout, and it was so dumb. There was no coaches. It was like one of those captain's practices. So we were just kind of out there messing around. And I ended up like breaking my leg, in the middle of a route. So it was kind of unfortunate because I felt like that would have been the year that I was primed to like contribute a lot, maybe be a starter and things like that. But I didn't want to like be one of those guys that got hurt and just like wasn't part of the team anymore. So I basically just tried to stay as close as I could. And in doing that, I was shooting, kind of video and stuff on the sidelines. And I found that I really enjoyed shooting football specifically. So, I mean, I just threw myself right into it with every game, trying to shoot as much as I could, practice shooting, cutting highlights for all my teammates. I made probably 20 highlight tapes that year. And then from there, I kind of like got a couple internships locally in Connecticut, just with like local businesses or things like that, and just tried to hone my skills. And then, randomly on Twitter one day I'm scrolling and I see the Patriots post an ad like, hey, like, do you like making videos and, football, like come work for us. So of course, like, you see that and you're like, the Patriots, like I could never get that job. So like, I remember like I saw it and I was like, dang, that's crazy. That would be dope. But I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. But I screenshotted it in my phone. So like, I didn't lose the tweet. And I think it might've been like a day or two later, I went back and applied for the position. And I got, response right away. I got like a virtual interview. It was mad weird. It was like, they asked you questions and you had to record yourself answering the questions, but like you couldn't, like if you messed up, like you couldn't re-record. So it was almost like an interview, but it wasn't with a person. It was just like on the computer. So that kind of threw me.
So weird.
Yeah, it was really weird. It's called like Hire View or something like that. I don't know if any of you guys, maybe
Dude,
somebody
those
experienced with that.
New England Patriots have always been on some other shit, so
Yeah,
I get
it
that.
was mad weird. Did that, and then I got the call from the HR lady. She was like, "Hey, we really liked your interview. Like, we want you to come in for an in-person interview." This is before COVID, obviously, which is kind of weird to think about doing in-person stuff. But went down to to Gillette. It wasn't. I mean, it felt like it was like coming home a little bit because I lived maybe 30 minutes from the stadium, and their offices were out of the stadium. So like coming back was cool, just seeing that, because obviously I grew up a Pats fan, so like to be interviewing for that position was great.
For sure.
But had a couple interviews there and was able to land the job. Like I said, it was a month I had a month left of grad school before I was going to graduate, but I got hired. So I was able to, like, I still had class left. And, but the whole premise of, we got some guests in here.
Bring them out.
Come say hi. All right. Make your guest appearance. Hi.
Hi.
All right.
What's up, bud?
Yeah.
Use your baller.
Oh yeah. Hopefully, man. I gotta get him going with the ball or something, but he's definitely got enough energy he almost ran over some kid at the park today. And yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Lower the shoulder, baby.
Yeah. No, he really did. He did. Janae, can you close the door?
So I'm curious, what was the first camera that you picked up, and what software did you use? Like when you said you were making mixes for your teammates.
Yeah, so the first camera that I had was a Canon T3i. Pretty basic camera. At the time, it was pretty high level though, which is crazy to think about. You think about it now, like it's like a $200 camera that you just pick up on wherever. But it was a DSLR, so you would get like kind of more of a cinematic look with it, like shooting with like a camcorder, which is what a lot of people were shooting with. Editing software was Premiere Pro. I was using, that's what I still use today to edit. I had a class in college that kind of taught us how to use it. So it was kind of clutch that I was able to learn it there. But just editing so many things at one time, it kind of really helped me get it down. So like by the time I got to the Patriots, like that's what they used. And I was already like proficient in editing in there. So it wasn't much of a jump for me, like editing wise.
So when you got that internship, then did you, like, I'm trying to gauge like how much you learned in college versus like how much you learned once you got the job, focused more on like the editing side with Premiere Pro. Was it a big jump, or what, like you said, you had already a pretty decent knowledge, but like, did you pick up anything that you probably wouldn't have in college?
I mean, definitely. I think just like working with, I mean, I worked for this company called Good Sport for a little bit as an internship, and it was kind of like at the time they were like covering sports for like I don't know how to describe it. It was almost like an editorial, but it was like it had a newsy feel to it. I can't think of anything. It was like, I want to say it was kind of like maybe like Bleacher Report or something like that. Not to that scale, but like that type of environment. Yeah. But it was a very startup. But from there, I was able to learn from, guys that had professional experience in the industry. And they kind of taught me about, how to set up an interview, how to like, use a wireless mic to mic someone up, how to frame the camera, and just different things like that, how to shoot for action and recaps and things like that, just things that you kind of have to pick up from repetition. So that was kind of helpful, just getting that experience, because that was a lot of like what I was doing at first with the Patriots, is just kind of like, cutting recaps and framing interviews and things like that. And the internships were kind of, they were just like ways to be able to get out and get more reps. Like, cause I was already doing stuff on my own. Like I would shoot, workouts for my teammates or, local guys or whatever who wanted, somebody to come shoot their training session. So I was already doing that, but then to have that internship experience on top of it, it kind of like legitimized like the work that I was doing. So even though I didn't have as much experience like shooting like the kind of stuff that I'm doing now at Under Armour, where it's like working directly with athletes, I had those internships to kind of, beef up my resume and get me at least a look, when people look at my resume on paper and they see 1, 2, 3, 4 internships, and then, stuff on the side when they see my sample work and things like that, it kind of helped me elevate myself, I think, which, got me in the door with the Patriots.
Yeah.
All right. And then you move on to, and we've talked about this before, Under Armour. So I guess the quickest summary of what you're doing right now is you're a photographer and videographer for Under Armour. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff going on, but could you real quick list all the places you've shot in like the past 2 years? Because, and I know that might sound crazy, but like as best you could, because there's gonna be people watching this who want to do exactly what you're doing in maybe even Under Armour, because people who are in content in sports, like this is what they want to do. Yeah. You can go through your Instagram and websites and stuff and see all the things you do, or at least maybe your favorites. Just list off all the sporting events or games or gyms or fields that you shot at in the past like year and a half or so.
Oh man. I mean,
it's a crazy list.
Yeah, it's probably a lot. At this point, like I stopped really keeping track. Just because like we're on the road so much. It's funny because I actually had to just I had to sign up for like the rewards for like the Southwest and stuff, because last year when I was doing it, I didn't sign up. So I missed out on all those points.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm already at like elite status, like just from this year. But I guess I'll start most recently and go back. But I was in Denver last weekend shooting Bones Highland for the Nuggets. That was dope. The week before that was in Chicago working with Jonathan Taylor on the Colts, shooting, some product. Then before that, I was, where was that? So we drove down to Philly for Joel Embiid. That was cool. We shot him. The Joel Embiid one was crazy because it was supposed to be a month earlier, but then they had to cancel. And then it was we weren't sure if it was going to happen because we couldn't find a gym. Then we found this gym. It was in Philly, some random high school, but the gym was the floor, it was like you were ice skating. It was so dusty. And I was like, hey, can we get a guy to come mop the floor? And he was like, I just treated the floor this morning, but literally you wipe your hand on the floor and it was dust. So I wasn't sure if when Joel got there, if he was going to even want to work out on the court. Cause I was slipping around and I wasn't even trying to do anything. So that was crazy. Joel gets there. He just kind of shows up. He had his barber waiting. He got a fresh cut in the back somewhere, had the Chick-fil-A spread for him. I guess he ate food or whatever. He came out, did a couple of drills. And then the second half of the just threw up half-court shots the whole time. We really did get a lot, but I mean, we got enough. I mean, if you go on Under Armour basketball, what we got, but it was cool seeing him in person, especially because obviously he was having a great season. So it was cool to work with him.
That's hilarious. That's exactly how I envision a Joel Embiid shoot to go.
Dude, absolutely. Are we done here? Just firing up. So what is your I'm kind of cutting you off because list, but real quick, you've done a ton of stuff DC United. I know you did a ton of Auburn basketball and football, Notre Dame stuff. How was the trip to Jackson State? Was that a surreal thing as being a football fan, being around Dion and his coaching and everything?
Yeah, no, Jackson State was probably it was the most lit college football environment that I've ever been in. And I think the week before or 2 weeks before we were at Auburn, Georgia. And the Jackson State environment was 10 times better than that. I mean, it was a little bit bittersweet because Dion, he had something going on with his foot, so he wasn't
he broke his what did he do? Something with his toe, one of his toes or something.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but he was very limited, so we weren't really, because he was in his chair, we weren't trying to focus on. But I mean, it was cool, just seeing him and his energy that he brought to that program. I mean, you see they got, the top recruit of last year's class. They signed some other people. There's just a lot of buzz around that program. We'll actually be back there this year for their I can't remember the name of the class, but we'll be there for I think it's their week 1 when they play Tennessee State, and that's where Eddie George coaches. So that'll be a big rivalry game that we'll be at this year.
That's awesome.
I mean, the for that to be a FCS game, the stand was packed. It was probably almost 70,000 people in the stadium. They had a huge tailgate outside. The energy was crazy, and just the HBCU environment is it's nothing that you've ever seen. Yeah. I mean, it can't even really if you've been to Howard, I was at a Howard game this year, and it was it's because it's down south, it's different. It's not up here, it's way different. So that was probably the best experience. I mean, you could ask anybody that was there, and they would tell you that was the best college experience they've ever been in.
That's so cool.
Have you all of these shoots that you go to, do you get a chance to actually interact with the athlete or athletes? And have you been able to develop any relationships, or is it just go do your business and then get out of there?
I mean, I think because I've been here relatively, not that long, I haven't really had an opportunity, especially with COVID, to really get to know athletes on a personal level. I think the only athlete that I've seen multiple times was Jonathan Taylor. I saw him last year at this camp in Miami, not Miami, in IMG. And that was dope. We were down there. It was called Future 50, which is like the top 50 football players in the country go to this camp. And from there is who they select to go to the All-American game, which is at the end of the year. But they had Jonathan Taylor and Justin Jefferson were there to kind of represent like pro athletes. And so when they got down there, we were kind of, all hanging out together. And the IMG is crazy. Like if you've ever been there, they've got like these villas that are like actual houses that you just like stay in instead of like staying at the house. So you have like this house basically. And so they ended up coming over. It was, somebody from sports marketing, myself, some of my other teammates, and then Jonathan Taylor and Justin Jefferson in our suite. We're just hanging out. Like, I think there was like playoff basketball going on. Like there was a fight going on. Like they were in our villa till probably like 2 a.m. Like we had to be like, all right, like we got to get to bed. And then like they left. But it was that type of experience that was cool because, they're just like regular guys. Like we were just chilling, just talking, laughing all night. And then seeing them the next day at the camp, it was just like building that relationship. So then when I was in Chicago a few weeks back, I saw Jonathan again, and he remembered me from that. And so, we were able to kind of like reconnect on that level. So that was kind of cool. And so that's kind of like where I'm trying to get at, where like people remember me and like, we have these relationships because it just makes it that much easier to work with these athletes in the future.
Hell yeah.
So,
so
I'm
much
hoping,
more comfortability.
Yeah. And like, they're super, when you're comfortable around somebody, you end up, getting the best content. So.
All right. Try to answer this or go ahead.
I was just curious, like how much freedom do you have when you shoot for them? Is it like Under Armour says is it strict? Like we need these shots, or can you kind of have free reign?
Yeah, so it's pretty strict actually. It's not like we're just going out there and just seeing what we can capture. Like we're going in with a shot list. I mean, most of them have been planned months in advance. So like we're talking about shoots that are going to happen at the end of the year right now. You know what I mean? So there's so much preparation and planning. There's, a lot of from, people on the market side to people who are, working in the product, and then people who are, developing the website and like where things are going to go in the store. Like there's so many different components that go into a shoot. So by the time we get to the shoot, like the shoot is probably the easiest part, honestly. Like you just get there and you're like, finally, we can just, capture this content. But like you've been talking about the shots that you need. You've been running through these decks, presenting the decks to everybody in the company. You got to get sign off on, what shots you're getting. Everyone has to be aligned. And then there's, the whole production aspect, whether you're bringing in, someone like for the Jonathan Taylor shoot, we had like this company brought in like a rain machine because they wanted to make the shoot, like he was wearing this jacket that's waterproof. So they needed to show the water like coming off, and it ended up being like a sunny day. So like it was like no rain, no clouds, but we still had to make it feel like it was cold and rainy. So they had like this machine that like sprayed rain. It's just like a lot goes into it. So yeah, I think that answered your question, I guess, right?
Oh yeah, Mac.
Sure.
You want to ask the last what were you going to say, and then I'm going to hit him with
just something real quick. I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this, but what is your favorite sport to work with? What's your favorite sport to shoot? Can you answer that? Is that possible?
Yeah, no, football, 100%. Like I'll shoot I mean, if I could only shoot football, I'd be fine. Like it's cool to be able to work with those sports. Like I've been doing stuff with DC United. And so soccer is like starting to like get up there for me, which is surprising because I never played soccer. I wasn't really a fan of soccer. But if I had to like only shoot one sport and that was it, I would pick football.
All right. Brandon's gonna fire off some quick ones for you.
Yeah, we like to close it out with 5 quick questions. So try to answer them as fast as possible, and don't think, just just answer.
Okay.
And this is like one of the ones that me and Mac are kind of laughing about because there's We've asked this to 3 different people so far, and we've gotten some pretty different answers. If you won $100 million tomorrow, what would you do with it?
Pay off debt. Probably. I mean, that's the first thing. But shoot, I mean, I would go get a crib and get a Hellcat Charger.
Okay.
Very nice.
That's kind of what Josh said. Josh was along those lines. What is a common myth about your job?
Damn, that's a hard one. I mean, probably that like it's easy. I mean, I think now it's different because like anyone can pick up a camera and like call themselves a content creator, but like to actually get to that next level, like it takes more than just like being able to shoot and make a cool mix. Like there's more that goes into it, and that's what separates like good content creators from great content creators. Like I'm still trying to work to that level of like, I mean, I don't consider myself a great. I mean, I'm good at what I do. I don't want to like downplay myself, but like there's people that are at a really high level, and I'm still trying to chase that. So it levels to it, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, this is actually a pretty decent segue then. Like, what is your biggest failure, and what did you learn from that experience? It's like a job interview at this point.
Yeah. What are your 3 weaknesses?
Work too hard.
Yeah, I'm too good at what I do.
I don't know about like, I don't think I've had like one, or at least I can't think of one specific biggest failure, but like I've had a few projects that like I've made. I mean, specifically going back to the Patriots, like I've done work and it's been crunch time, and like I send in a final project and they're like, we are scrapping this whole thing. Like we need to completely do something different. And so that's always challenging. And I mean, I've had plenty of projects ripped up like that. And I think what you learn from it is you just have to go back to the drawing board, and it kind of makes you think about things differently. But I've had some of my best work come out of those scenarios where, you're asked to like completely redo everything that you just did. You might have put in 3 days of work on this one project and it's not good enough, and you got to go back in. And that's really when you have to like dig deep and like figure out like how to like make it work. And the bounce back projects that I've had from those experiences have been pretty solid. So
in your opinion, what is the most important personality trait or strength to be in your industry in content creation?
You got to network, man. You got to know how to talk to people. You never know who you're talking to. I can't tell you guys how many opportunities that even just like this opportunity, because like me and Matt got cool I was there at his school for like a couple hours, and like, I consider him like a good friend now, just from that. And like, it's led to opportunities to be able to shoot, at Good Counsel basketball this year, which was an awesome experience. So like, just being able to talk to different people, network, and get yourself out there, it will open so many different doors for you.
There's been a common answer actually with a few. So last question, and you can't pick football or content creation. If you had to work in a different industry completely, what would you do? Can't be professional sports, can't be content creation.
That's hard, man. I don't know. I didn't think of anything else that I want to do. I mean, unless it was like come up with my own business or something, but like I wouldn't even know what to do.
Is there a long-term goal here to like start your own content business, or you're thinking of sticking with Under Armour for as long as possible?
I mean, I would eventually like to,
don't answer that. It's a trap.
I mean, if I'm independent, contractor, a freelancer, I mean, those people make crazy money, man. If just working for different companies, once you're able to build up your portfolio and, you have a good body of work, people will hire you. And then that, it goes back to like, your networking as well, because, you never know who you can meet at one of these other companies and say, hey, I have this project for you. And then it just snowballs from there. But to answer your first question, I think I would probably want to be like a professional gamer, like one of those guys, or like like that. Because those guys live like crazy lifestyles too. You're just streaming all day, and I feel like that might be kind of fun.